It all started with a quiet lake, a peaceful spot my family and I had enjoyed for years. We built a small wooden bridge across it, nothing fancy, just something personal, something that made the place feel like ours. The lake was part of a shared area in our community, and while it technically fell under the local HOA's jurisdiction, no one ever complained about the bridge. That is, until everything changed. One morning, I woke up to the sound of chainsaws. I looked out and saw a crew ripping apart the bridge I had built with my own hands. No warning, no notice, just gone. The HOA claimed it violated some rule buried deep in their 200-page handbook, a rule no one had ever mentioned before. I tried to talk to them to find a solution, but they wouldn't listen. Their minds were made up. And to make matters worse, they threatened me with fines if I rebuilt. But here's where it gets interesting. What they didn't realize is that the lake, the one that surrounds their newly built dollar per million luxury, the thing about HOA boards is they're great at quoting rules, but not so great at understanding people. And they definitely didn't understand me. See, I wasn't just some guy trying to cause trouble. That bridge had memories. I built it with my son during one summer break. It wasn't bothering anyone. But they treated it like it was some kind of crime scene. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about the bridge. It was about control. The resort they'd just finished building on the other side of the lake was the crown jewel of the neighborhood. Brand new, fancy, and expensive. And guess who had helped fund it? That same HOA. They'd invested community money into it, hoping it would boost property values and attract the right kind of people. So when I started draining the lake, just a little, it didn't just hit them financially, hit their pride. They came knocking. Not just emails and letters now. Board members started showing up at my door, trying to reason with us. The lake continued to shrink. The cracks in the community started to show. People who used to wave at each other in the mornings now crossed the street without making eye contact. Some residents quietly thanked me, saying someone finally stood up to the HOA. Others, especially the ones with lakefront homes, weren't so happy. I started noticing side glances, whispered conversations, even a few anonymous letters stuffed in my mailbox telling me to back off before it gets worse. But no one ever said anything face to face. Meanwhile, the resort was in chaos. Weekend bookings dropped. Kayak rentals sat unused. The so-called private lake experience was starting to look more like a muddy pond with a sad dock at the edge. I heard they even had to refund a wedding because the couple didn't want their photos taken next to exposed rocks and tree stumps. It was clear the HOA had underestimated how much the damn maintained, how little power they actually had over it. By week 3, the lake was down nearly 4 feet. What used to be peaceful water lapping against docks was now cracked earth and driftwood. The resort's glossy ads promising serene lakeside views no longer matched reality. The HOA called an emergency meeting, but it wasn't open to the public. Still, people found out what was said. They were panicking. I heard through the grapevine they were talking about suing me, accusing me of intentionally damaging community property. The irony, that lake wasn't their property. The dam wasn't theirs either. But they were desperate, and desperate people don't play fair at the same time. Tim handed me a file, photocopies, emails, old permit applications. What he uncovered wasn't just about shady spending. It was bigger. Some of the signatures approving the resort construction didn't match the official board records. There were gaps in the land survey reports, and no environmental inspection had been done before they broke ground. The whole HOA board could be in trouble. Legal trouble. But exposing them meant dragging myself into a storm. I had a family to think about. My wife was already nervous. Our son had noticed the tension too. She told me we should just let it go, but I couldn't not after they tore down something we built together. Not after they made it personal. Then came the anonymous call. a blocked number. The morning after I found the tampered bolt, I installed a trail camera near the dam just in case. I didn't tell anyone, not even Tim. Something about that. Call those tire tracks, the sudden silence from the HOA, all felt too coordinated. They'd stopped sending threats. No more visits, no more notes. It was quiet, too quiet. And that's when I knew something bigger was coming. That afternoon, I got a certified letter, not from the HOA, but from the county. It said the dam was now under environmental review. And until further notice, I was not allowed to operate or alter its structure in any way. The wording was vague, but the message was clear. They'd gone above me. They were using the county to try and shut me down. But here's the twist: when I showed the letter to my lawyer, she raised an eyebrow. She said the department listed on the form didn't even handle dam permits. In fact, it looked like a doctored version of an old document template. Someone had forged a government notice to intimidate me. That wasn't just unethical, was illegal now. I had more than suspicion, I had proof of manipulation. The question was, who was behind it? By tea later that evening, the trail cam caught something. A person hood up, moving fast, flashlight in hand. The timestamp was 3:42 a.m. They were messing with the gate again. But here's what shocked me. They weren't alone. A second figure stood a few feet back, watching. When I zoomed in, I couldn't believe it. It was one of the HOA board members. The same guy who told me just days before that the community was better off without my bridge. And then it hit me. This wasn't just about control. This was about covering something up. Something connected to that resort, to the budget files Tim found, maybe even to that missing environmental report. The more I looked, the more it made sense. They needed the lake full, not just for business, but to hide what was underneath. Because buried in that shrinking lake bed was something they never wanted anyone to find. Ann's voice. Calm, but cold. He warned me to stop before someone got hurt. That was the moment I realized this had gone far beyond property lines and HOA fines. Someone was willing to protect their secret at any cost. The next morning, I walked out to the dam and saw tire tracks, fresh ones. Someone had been there during the night. Tools were moved. A bolt on the gate was loosened. One had tampered with it. Whether they were trying to sabotage me or frame me, I didn't know. But I knew one thing. This wasn't just a neighbor dispute anymore. It was a full-on war, and I was standing in the middle of it, with everything to lose. And the worst part? I hadn't even opened the dam all the way yet. But here's where it gets messy. I wasn't the only one with a grudge. Turns out, a few years back, the HOA had forced an older couple to cut down a row of trees on their property, claiming it blocked the community view. Another neighbor had been fined for leaving his RV in his own driveway for 2 days. So, when I started pushing back, some of these folks saw a chance to bring their own issues to the surface. One guy, Tim, he lived near the south end of the lake, came to me with something he'd found in the HOA's budget reports. Something about misused funds tied to the resort construction. He said the board may have cut legal corners to get that resort built fast. And if it was true, it could bring the whole operation down. But if I exposed it, I'd be going from neighbor with a grudge to public enemy number one. And the worst part, the HOA had started digging too. Not just into my property, but into me. Background checks, permits, drone flyovers. They were looking for something to use, something to shut me up before I found what they were hiding. Some tried to act friendly. Others threw threats at me. One of them even said I was putting the whole community in danger. I asked him if anyone had cared about my family's safety when they sent a demolition crew to tear down our bridge without warning. He didn't have an answer. And here's the thing: most of my neighbors, they were on my side. They'd seen how the HOA operated. Quiet rules turned into sudden fines. Common areas taken over by the resort. Little freedoms slowly disappearing. My dam just happened to be the one piece they didn't control. I wasn't trying to be a villain. I was trying to protect something that mattered to me. A bit it turns out. When money's involved, people stop seeing each other as neighbors and start seeing each other as obstacles. The lake kept draining. Slower some days, faster on others. And with every inch, it dropped. The tension grew, but there was something else, something even bigger that the HOA didn't know about the dam. And once they found out, things would never be the same again. Resort was fed and controlled by a dam that sits ... on my land. That dam wasn't part of the HOA. It was mine, legally and entirely. For years, I had maintained it, kept the water flowing, and made sure the lake stayed full for everyone, including their fancy new getaway spot. So when they destroyed what I had built without so much as a conversation, I made a decision. I opened the dam. Slowly at first, just enough to make a point. The water began to lower. Their pristine lakefront views started to shrink. Boats sat in mud. Guests started to complain. That's when things really began to spiral, and I hadn't even fully opened it yet. What happened next set off a chain of events no one in the neighborhood saw coming. And let's just say the HOA wasn't prepared for what I had planned. Stay with me, because this is only the beginning.